Hi and welcome to the Active Code podcast, brought to you by Aspire Active Partnerships. I'm Paul Griffiths, and joining me each week on the pod is Luke Johnson.
Aspire Active Partnerships is a community of like-minded business leaders who all believe that collaboration in the sports coaching and children's activity sector is essential for success. We've proven that working in collaboration does benefit business growth and essentially helps more children be more active more often.
To combat physical inactivity, we need organisations that are performing at their very best. Organisations will only operate to high standards if they are led well. So, if we can focus on developing high quality leaders throughout an organisation, not just at the top, customers will experience higher quality services, which means heightened enjoyment levels and increased levels of physical activity. And if we do this at an early age, we know that we can build the foundations for a more active, happier and healthier life. The Active Code investigates what it really takes to be a successful leader and how organisations can combat physical inactivity.
We won't be alone through this journey. We are joined by business owners and experts from our sector, as well as inspirational people from outside our industry. We'll understand the importance of physical activity to our guests, reflect on leadership experiences, and gain thought-provoking insights on how we can crack the Active Code and get more children more active more often. If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and subscribe.
Founder and CEO at Profit Genie, welcome to the Active Code podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here, Duncan. Could you start off by telling us and the listeners a bit more about you, your journey, and Profit Genie?
Profit Genie is a firm of chartered accountants. Our job is we do all the stuff that you expect from your accountant, the compliance stuff, the payroll and the VAT and the year-end accounts, all the stuff that keeps you on the right side of the law. But it's our job to help our clients make more money. And we do that through, the main way we do that is through a cash flow system that we call Profit First, but also through accountability sessions. So typically a monthly meeting where we look at the numbers and we look at what the future holds and we analyze variances and we ask some difficult questions and we help them to move the needle.
And Duncan, from an activity perspective, I know you do like to keep active. Look, can you just go a bit more detail what activity actually means to you?
So for me, I think the similarities rather between finances and activity are really striking. Between finances and fitness, it's all about habits and doing things regularly and building them on them in the long term. Personally, I love cycling. I've been a cyclist all my life. I've just spent a silly amount of money on a new bike. I just like going to the gym actually, and I like swimming, mainly because I broke my shoulder falling off my bike. So swimming was a great way of recovering, and I loved it. So I've carried on. I try and squeeze as much as I can. There's a gym about a minute away from my office, so I have no excuse.
And I guess almost like the daily routine as such there, you talk about the importance of and the similarities. It's good actually, that kind of like a bit of a seamless link between finance and fitness. I've not heard that before. But you're right, it's about developing those habits. What are the benefits for you of activity? So you're active, you're doing a lot and you understand the importance of it, but what actually does it bring to you, Duncan, activity?
I think it gives me way more energy to turn up and really be present and really help my customers. If I'm not careful, I can get overweight quite quickly. By going on to cycling, it really helps me to burn a lot of calories, and actually it's really good for my clarity of thinking. I often find that I have an idea on Saturday morning when I'm on a mountain bike, and I think it's because my mind's just clearing from the day to day. So it really helps to come up with ideas that I can start to bounce around with the team and to push the company forward.
Yeah. There's so many people that we talk to that I guess relay that point and the importance of being active and fit, both mentally and physically. And I think we all know the importance of, especially when we're very busy people in our day-to-day lives, the importance of actually and then getting away from that. And activity is a great way to do it. And so often we hear as well about the ideas that come into our minds when we're not actually working as such. No, good. Thanks for sharing that, Duncan.
Onto the business side of things, Duncan, needing to be financially fit. Firstly, what does it mean for a business to be financially fit? And what would be your top 3 tips on becoming financially fit as a business? That's such a good question. I think you have to prioritize making a profit. That it's striking how many companies that we work with, especially when they first come to us, where the owners are, the business isn't performing as well as it should. And so the owners basically have a job, and it's the worst job in the world because there's no holiday pay and there's no let up. You're constantly on the hamster wheel. So you have to make a profit. The business has to hardwire profitability because that's your reward. That creates the headroom for you to develop your business and grow it and provide jobs for other people. That's the number one job of entrepreneurs, by the way, is to provide jobs for other people. So I think a practical way of doing that, and the way that we always encourage people to do, is to open a bank account, call it profit, and from now on, once a month, put whatever the money you've received that month, just put 1% of that money into your profit account. Because you can survive on 99% of your money, right? Everyone says yes to that. If you can do that, if you create the profit account, put 1% in, and after 3 months, put 2% in, and after 3 months, put 2% in, and just start slow. And before you know it, after a year, you'll have a decent amount of money in that account, or you'll be working that profitability muscle. You'll be exercising it, and it'll be delivering for you. Secondly, you have to have monthly management accounts. Really important to get accurate data, meaningful data, and to talk to someone who can help you understand it. That would be my third point. You might have an accountability partner. Very often with fitness, with going to the gym, with trying to build fitness and strength, you might have an accountability partner to keep you going through the harder times. That's much like our monthly meetings with our customers. And you don't necessarily need to do it with your accountant. You could do it with a mastermind group. But having someone external to hold you accountable for, I said I was going to do this, and this is what I've done. This is where I've fallen short. This is what I need to do. That really helps to move the needle, in that phrase again.
Duncan, just to hone in on the first point there, that the importance of profitability. I think profitability is seen by a lot of people in various sectors as a bit of a dirty word. And I think that it does relate with me, I guess, from the early days of starting business. But there's people out there now, Simon Sinek being one that pops in the head, that talks about profitability being viewing it as the fuel in the vehicle. So if as an organisation, we are where we are now, and we're looking to get to a destination, we need fuel to go into that vehicle to get us from A to B. So I think by that, the simple analogy is just as a mindset for organisations that, especially in the education space and if organisations that work in this sector, quite often there are other organisations out there that will go, well, actually, people shouldn't be really making a profit in this sector because they're working in education, supporting children, etc. But profitability is so important in so many ways, like you said there, in terms of employing people, making sure that they're paid the right money they should be for the work that they do in those organisations, but also to the importance of attracting new customers, making those sales, looking after those customers and delivering the best services. We can't do that as an organisation unless we actually do generate that profit. And it, by the way, as well, it shouldn't really matter the legal entity of that organisation as well, because whether it's a charity or if it's a limited company, you still need to make profit because you need to reinvest into those organisations. So from your experience and the various businesses and sectors that you work in, is that quite a common perception or misconception of profit?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm so glad you mentioned that point, because we often talk about profit first, and then we get quite a bit of backlash from people saying, all you care about is profit. Do you know what? That's the last thing I care about is profit. It's the things that profit enables you to do that I care about. If you're trying to build a robust company, you have to be profitable. And then you take on employees. They want you to be profitable because they want a job. You have a duty to be profitable, so that you're still in business in 3 years' time. So you can, and if you're good at your job, if you're good at serving your customers, you should want to expand your business. And you can only do that if you're profitable. So it's entirely honorable to do that. And did you know that only 3% of people will ever start a company and employ people? So if you've done that, you're probably the only person in your primary school class who's ever done that and is creating jobs for other people. I salute that. I respect that, because it's a difficult gig to take that on. And if you're doing that, then obviously you're creating jobs, and you owe it to your team, to your staff, to their ability to pay their mortgages, their ability to fulfill their obligations, that your business is robust and that you can invest in them, in their careers and their learning, and deliver great product to your customers. Duncan, many listeners listening in on this will be either owners or leaders within SMEs. And typically in our sector, we'll have all come up from being a sports coach or a teacher or that kind of background. And then all of a sudden, people own their business. And it's something you at the end have to deal with, like you said, employing people, the financial element of it. So kind of message to SMEs is, why would you say financial stability is so important, particularly for small businesses that are growing? I think not least because you have a duty to create jobs and protect those jobs. But also you can, if you're not financially robust, it's actually incredibly stressful running a business. And stress causes you to make bad decisions. And there's quite an interesting body of research here that suggests that people who are under severe financial stress actually drop IQ by 20 points. And then they make worse financial decisions. And we often wonder why people make terrible financial decisions with loans, for example, or why they buy things that they do. And generally, part of the reason is because they're not thinking straight, and they're not able to think straight because they're under so much pressure. So there's this virtuous cycle by having a robust business that makes a respectable profit. It means you pay tax, you contribute to the services that we all need, but you're then much better able to enhance your business, build your business, create more jobs, pay more tax, and so on. What would you say the common headaches SMEs that you've worked with stumble on when they are addressing or come into the financial element of their business? Yeah, I think they often think that the profit will come down the line. Well, we'll get there eventually. Just go sort this thing out now and then we'll make a profit, which is the wrong way to think about it. That you have to prioritize profit earlier, which is why I like the 1% rule, because it's not hard to do and it just starts you on that journey. And I think as you both mentioned earlier, there is this sense of embarrassment maybe about talking about being profitable. We much rather talk about revenue. And we'd much rather say my business is much bigger. It's 20% bigger than it was last year. That's great, but I care much more about profits and cash, because that's what's going to enable you to create jobs, enable you to sleep at night, to build better products, to serve your staff, your team, and your customers.
So the old saying, Duncan, that's been around for years now, revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. So what is cash flow within that equation?
Cash is king. Revenue is vanity. Profit is vanity. Cash is king.
And why should it be king?
The phrase, what gets measured gets managed, was coined by the American management consultant Pete Drucker over 40 years ago. Although there have been some alternatives to this phrase, one that resonates with me is what gets measured gets improved.
In recent years, this alternative phrase has gained popularity, emphasising the idea that measuring progress is crucial to achieving improvement.
Scorecards are a great way to highlight your strengths and identify blind spots in your organisation while providing instant, actionable steps on how you can improve that needs improving.
So, how does your organisation measure up?
Head to capscorecard.scoreapp.com and take approximately 5 minutes to answer some yes/no questions. Once you've done that, you will get an instant personalised report tailored to your organisation with clear, actionable steps. And it's totally free.
That's capscorecard.scoreapp.com. www.scoreapp.com, and the link will be in the show notes too.
Because without cash, you to take the health analogy, if you're not profitable, it's like cancer, right? It's slow, and it will get you in the end if you don't address it. Running out of cash is like a heart attack. It's really serious. You hit a brick wall, and so you have to focus on it. And actually, these days with the advent of modern banking apps, so you log on to your phone in the morning, you can easily look at your bank account and see your balance. And that's what people do. Often when I'm talking to groups of people, I'll ask them to put their hands up. Who's looked at their bank account in the past week? All the hands go up. Keep your hand up if you looked in the last 24 hours. Most hands stay up. Right? It's natural human behavior. And so I don't want to change that. I want to work with people. I encourage them to do that, but they've got to do it in the right way, which is why we encourage people to hypothecate money, to put money into bank accounts for certain purposes, so that their bank accounts give them a very clear signal as to how their company is performing.
And if people are listening to the podcast want to enhance their cash flow and be in a more positive situation, can you just give some 3, 4, 5 even tips as to what business owners can do to enhance their cash flow in their businesses?
I think keeping the close eye on it is in a meaningful way. Is the main thing to do. So, for example, you could download your bank statements for the past 3 months and look at everything that you spent, and then I'd put them into categories. Number 1, the things I've got to have. 2, the nice to haves. 3, the things I've got to go. And do that at least annually. There's an amazing amount of things that we pick up as we go along, like software subscriptions. I'm guilty of that. And suddenly you find you've renewed for another year. So pruning back now and again is key. Good management accounts allows you to understand how your business is performing, but also doing a forecast. You should be able to answer the question, how much money is this business going to make over the next year? If you can't answer that question, you haven't got enough visibility on your plans, and you haven't got a plan, how do you know whether you're successful or not?
And in terms of listening to or reading books, listening to podcasts, increasing their knowledge about things, if listeners are finances something quite new to them or something they don't like looking into as much, how can they become a bit more knowledgeable around their finances?
I think that if you're if you like podcasts, you like books, I'm a big fan of 7 Habits of Effective People, Stephen Covey. There's some great principles in there. And the one about doing the important but not urgent things, which is really another word for fitness, right? Investing in the future. I love that analogy that he has. Obviously, Profit First is a great book, the book by Mike McCallowitz, which inspired me to pivot my business to focus on that methodology. I think those books are short and punchy. He's written lots of books, actually. Profit First is, I think, the best one. Pumpkin Plan is another great one. They'll give you really good practical advice on how to make practical changes in your business tomorrow. I could go on all day about books, but I'll probably end up boring you.
You mentioned at the start Profit Genie. So what would you say makes you, your team, Profit Genie different to other accountants?
I think it's the accountability that we provide to our customers. So, we're not accountants that rock up at the year end and say, here's your accounts. We'll pick up the phone to our customers. We'll harass them. We'll nag them in the nicest possible way. And then we'll ask them difficult questions when we get in front of them. Our job is to challenge our customers, to push them to achieve mini transformations. So over time, their business should change massively based on working with us. And we like to implement the Profit First methodology, the hypothecated bank accounts. That's really the heart of the cash flow element of what we do. But there's also obviously the data and the accountability. That those are the three pillars of how we support our customers.
Duncan, if we just go back a step, we talked about the knowledge around business owners and around finances. And we're already thinking that most business owners that you will talk to, probably the first main issue and the barrier that you or they need to overcome, or you support them to overcome, is actually to, I guess, put their hand up and say, do you know what? Actually, finance isn't a strength. I'm not overly confident with my numbers. A financial literacy, if you like. Is that something that is quite common? Because I'll hold my hand up and say, it's certainly something that I was never overly confident on, but I had to make out as I thought I had to make out as though I was confident with, because I'm a business owner. Now, I guarantee, I know in the network that we have with businesses in our sector, I'd probably say if we were to ask everybody in front of a whole room, probably 20% would put their hand up and admit that they're not overly confident. But if we spoke to every individual away from people in the room, 80% would probably admit that they're not completely confident with all of their numbers and their finances. Is that quite a common thing in all sectors and businesses that you talk to?
Yeah, that's really common. And your timing is perfect there, because straight after this event, we run mastermind classes for our customers, and we've got a group of gym owners. And the session I'm doing after this session is about financial literacy. And these are guys who run multi-site businesses. Some of them are multi-million pound businesses. And they've asked me as a group, can we do this? And we as accountants, we use words like income and revenue and deferred revenue and balance sheets. Well, that's one reason why I like talking about cash, because everybody understands cash. You still need all that. If those management accounts, you still need to understand what those terms are. But there's a real hunger for it even from this established group of professionals who all support each other and all have successful established businesses, and they employ a lot of people. One of them in particular has raised money from private equity, that they are financially sophisticated people, and they still have a desire to say, just take me through the number, take me through this again. What does return on equity mean? What does EBITDA mean? So if they can put their hand up, then I think everybody can.
Yeah, and you won't say this, but I will. If your current accountant isn't giving that support to you and that advice and guidance, and Duncan, you mentioned that quite often accountants, and we've experienced this in the past, you'll talk to them a couple of times a year, maybe quarterly, just for a general catch-up, and they'll tell you probably what you already know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, they'll share the accounts with you and say, you just sign them off and we'll submit them. And that, you almost end up then in a bit of a revolving door, thinking, well, that must be what all accountants do. So if you're listening and you think that's me, then I'd highly recommend that you talk to other accountants and compare and contrast and see what they can obviously offer you. Duncan, thanks a lot for your time. We always finish off asking guests to share their experiences around podcasts, books. I know you've already shared a couple already, but or people that you'd recommend to our listeners. Is there anything, not necessarily, it doesn't all have to be finance related.
Okay.
So yeah, what do you recommend?
I am going to recommend to you a blog, a website called Mr. Money Mustache. Right. Triple N, Mr. Money Mustache. He's a Canadian guy, lives in America. He retired at the age of 30, having spent a 10-year career as a software developer. And so his blog started off as a finance blog, and it's developed to a lifestyle blog. And I love the way he writes. I love the principles he talks, the things he talks about are all things that are in tune with what we've been talking about today. You can spend hours on his website. The content is entertaining. It's full of swear words, by the way, so I hope you're up for that. If you're offended, don't read it. But yeah, his writing is really inspirational, really funny. I absolutely love it, and I thoroughly recommend it.
Great. And that's a blog.
That's a blog, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Great stuff. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. There's been some great insights there. And a lot of information for listeners to process. If they would like to get in touch with you or learn more about Profit Genie, how can they do that, Duncan?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy to chat with you. And if people want to find out more about us, they can go to our website, which is profitgenie.group.
Awesome. Socials.
I'm
I've
sure.
got in there. I've got in.
My marketing person isn't here today. It's rebranded, and so they're actually not live yet. It's just the website. Yeah, please find us through the website. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you.
To subscribe to the pod, search for the active code on your podcast app. Let's work together to get more people more active more often.